Hi guys, today in our class we made a type of air dry clay called porcelain. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the clay to make a rainbow. First, we need to get the clay ready. When you take the clay out of the sealed plastic bag, it might be very sticky. You can make it drier by mixing it with more corn flour, or just let it sit in the air for a while for it to dry up a little bit. But you need to knead the clay to make sure it's ready for use. When you feel the clay is smooth and doesn't stick to your fingers, make a small round ball and let it sit on the table. If the ball stays in its shape, then you passed test number 1. Now gently press the ball, and if there's no crack around the edge of the ball, you pass test number 2. Gently pull apart the clay, and if you can form 2 raindrop shapes, you pass test number 3. Let's try to make this rainbow from our booklet. First, let's make the pink dough. Mix some red and white acrylic paint into the clay. The paint will make the clay a little bit wet, but just keep mixing. Knead the clay well so the color is evenly mixed in the clay. Use the heat from your palms to soften the clay so the color can be mixed better. When the clay is dried, the color will be white but a little bit transparent. You can mix in some white color to make it more opaque. Make sure to wash your hands and dry your hands before making another color. Now the colored clay is ready. Let's start to make the rainbow. We use the white clay for the clouds. Knead the clay before we make the clouds, because outside of the clay has started to dry. If some part of the clay is dry and some other part is wet, the rainbow will crack when it's drying. That's why we need to knead the clay before we use it to make anything. Make 2 long shapes with similar length and curl up from both sides into an S shape. Knead the blue clay before we make it into an arc shape. Now the clay shouldn't be sticky at all. Make the yellow and pink parts of the rainbow and put them together. Gently press the bottom of the rainbow to make them stick together. Check size of the clouds to make sure they are big enough to cover the bottom of the rainbow. If the clay is a little bit dry, it won't stick very well. The first thing you can do is to make some cross patterns where the clay will touch each other. way way to stick things together is to use a little bit of water on both sides and then press gently. The third way to stick things together is to smudge the clay, but make sure you don't smudge on the front of whatever you're making. Finally, if all things failed, you can always use glue to stick the parts together when the clay is completely dry. Other than making things with colored clay, you can just make something with a white clay, let it dry completely, and then use acrylic paint to paint over it. It takes 1 to 7 days to dry your clay, depending on the size and thickness of your clay, as well as the weather. When you dry the clay, make sure it's in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight, air con, and fan, because we need to let the clay dry slowly by itself, otherwise it might crack. When the clay is dry, it will shrink by about 10 to 20%. That means it will be smaller when it's dry. The clay is not going to be waterproof when it's dry, so you need a layer of protection to stop it from getting wet. You can use Elmer's glue to paint it, or use your mom's clear nail polish. Last but not least, the clay is for handcrafts only, so do not use it for food or drink. The clay we made today used half a cup of corn flour and half a cup of wood glue. The wood glue is thicker, so the cooking time is less. If you don't have wood glue, you can also use Elmer's glue or it's a thinner glue, so the cooking time will be longer. We also used 1 tablespoon of oil, any oil will do, and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar as preservative. When we knead the clay after it's been cooked, we use this lotion on the table and on our hands to make it less sticky, and the lotion has chemicals that will make the clay stronger. I hope you can make something with the clay. If you fail, it doesn't matter, just try again. Bye!